This class is concerned with goal-setting theory. Goal-setting theory is a motivation theory. It rests in the province of motivation. It deals with motivation. And in this session we want to talk about the importance of setting goals and what are the characteristics of good goals. It assumes that by setting employee goals they will have an incentive to achieve the goals. So the theory behind goal setting is that once the employees know what the goals are, they will strive harder to try and achieve those goals. So it's important to have something to aim at. It's important that the employees know the direction in which the company is moving, know what's required of them, so that they can strive to achieve what has been asked. Goal-setting theory has become widely acknowledged within human resources, organizational psychology, and also behavior. So it's now an important part of our consideration in any of those areas. So the human resource people will be well briefed in the use of goal setting and the importance of goal setting. Organizational psychology and behavioral scientists working in the area of business will also be aware of the importance of goal setting. Edwin Locke developed goal setting theory in the 1960s. According to Locke's research, employees are only motivated if they are provided with specific goals and receive constructive feedback. So motivation depends on the workers, on the employees having specific goals and also receiving constructive feedback. That's what enables motivation to take place. That's what motivates the workforce, according to Locke's researches. So the workers must have something to aim at, and if it goes wrong, they must have constructive help, constructive feedback in the form of help. If it goes right, they must be praised and they must get feedback talking about the experiences of achieving the goal. Task performance is greatly improved if employees have goals to work towards. If the employees don't have goals, then they are aiming in different directions. They're not pulling together. It's not a team effort. There's confusion. They're not quite sure what they should be doing, and hence their energies are dissipated and they don't have a single-minded target. They're not channeling their efforts in a single-minded fashion. There are 5 principles to goal-setting theory. These are clarity, challenge, commitment, feedback, and task completion. Now we're going to look at each of these briefly in this session. This is what's going to take up the majority of the session that's left. These are the 5 principles upon which goal-setting theory rests. We'll start with clarity. A goal must be clear and specific. It should address the point and it should indicate what needs to be achieved. So clarity, it must be clear to the workers what they are aiming at. It must be clear what they're trying to achieve. There must be clarity of thinking. The employees should have a single-mindedness in achieving the goal. But to do that, they should be clear about what the goal is. They must have no doubt about what they're doing. And it should be specific. It should be a task that is able to be delineated. It's a task that needs to be achieved, and they can see the limits of what's required. So there's no ambiguity about what they're doing. For a goal to be effective, there must be a set time frame for completion. For a goal to be completed, The workers must know when it's due. There must be a time frame. If there's no time frame, it'll drift on and on and on. It will carry on, and there's no end date. There's no end figure. So there must be a completion time. So the goal must be very clear. It must be specific. They must know what the goal entails, what exactly is required. And there must be an end date. There must be a time frame. Goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, in other words, have a time constraint, these develop motivation to succeed. So goals which have these qualities, they're specific. Specific means that they can be defined. The limits of the task can be determined. This is what the task entails. This is exactly what needs to be done. It's specific. It's measurable. The contribution of the employee can be measured in terms of the changes that are brought about in the product as a consequence of the employee being involved. So it's measurable. The task is measurable. If it's not measurable, it's not a task, because there's no way of measuring it. It has no start point. It has no end point. It's amorphous. It must be achievable. Tasks must be achievable. If they're not achievable, there's no point in asking the worker to try, because it's not achievable. You're asking the impossible of the employee. You're asking the employee to achieve something which is not achievable. That's a contradiction. So tasks must be achievable. And they must be relevant. They must contribute towards the bigger picture. The employee must see the relevance of the task. The employee must understand that the task is important and how it fits together with other tasks to meet a bigger goal, a bigger objective. And it must be time-bound. In other words, there must be a time frame. As I said earlier, if there's no time frame, it'll just drift on and on. There's no start point, there's no end point. It just carries on. So there must be some time dimension, the start time and the end time. And if these are in place, if these 5 parts are in place, then the motivation will succeed according to this view. These are various aspects, being specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, are formed into an anagram. Take the first letter from each word and it spells out the word SMART. So these are the SMART principles, that goals must be smart. Now, for example, to increase employee retention by 20% in the coming 5 years, that's specific. It relates to something that can be done. It's measurable. It possibly is achievable, depending on the conditions of the labour market and the goods market, the state of the economy, the state of the company. It's relevant. It could be relevant to the business. Time-bound. Well, as it's stated here, there's no time. Increase employee retention by 20%. That could be over the next 100 years, the next week, the next month. It can be any period. So I said, when I read the statement at the start, I said, increase employee retention by 20% in the next 5 years. I gave it a time dimension. But as it stands, there's no time dimension, so it's not very specific. If we said respond to employee complaints within 48 hours, well, that's measurable because all the employee complaints would have to be dealt with, so it's measurable. It's specific. It deals only with employee complaints. Whether it's achievable depends on the resources that the company have invested in meeting this particular goal. Whether it's relevant to the business, but whether it generates extra sales or goodwill or whatever it's designed to achieve, that needs to be determined. And time-bound, clearly within 48 hours. So these are some of the issues when we deal with clarity. Now, back to our goals, the principles upon which goals are based. And the second one in that list was challenge, if you go back to the start. So challenge, goals are motivating if the employer or person finds them to be challenging. If the goal is very easy, they're not really that motivating. If it's a very simple, straightforward task, nobody gets too motivated about it. It's just something that can be easily completed. But if it's challenging, if it's difficult, and if the people have to think about it and work out how to do it and so on, it becomes a challenge. So it becomes more interesting. The level of challenge provides motivation because there is a reward associated with its accomplishment. When we face a challenge and succeed, we feel accomplishment. We feel we have achieved something big. So we are more motivated because of the challenge. Rewards tend to increase according to the level of difficulty. Jobs which are difficult to achieve, tasks which are difficult to achieve within jobs, perhaps a better way of putting it, these tasks normally are associated with higher rewards. The workers receive more when they achieve the task. The task is difficult, and the workers have to develop skills to achieve the tasks and apply themselves and think about the task, work hard to achieve it. So those workers receive higher rewards. Now, the rewards could be monetary, it could be a higher pay or a bonus or something of that nature, or it could be recognition, praise, promotion, job security. But there's a greater reward because they've taken on the extra challenge. So being rewarded, of course, will boost the employee's enthusiasm to succeed. The employee feels much better because they've been rewarded, and they will apply themselves better in the future to other tasks. Goals must be relevant and challenging for them to be perceived as important. So goals should be challenging so that the workers feel that they are achieving something worthwhile at the end when they've completed the task. And of course they must feel that the task is relevant. It's not just a task designed to keep them busy, that they're not actually doing anything, they're just performing tasks for the sake of it. The task that they've been given must mean something, and the employees must see what the task means in terms of the overall performance of the business. So they need to feel important, and they need to feel that they're working on a task that is important to the business.